Well, good afternoon. As they say in Guam, half a day. Can you say that? It's like half a day, but half a day. All right, half a day. Okay, thank you very much. We have the best session of all of the sessions. And it's, I know because I've talked to the presenters and they're all raring to go. And so this is an opportunity to continue understanding the nature of the human condition and their expressions in many ways. So I'm very happy to present our first speaker this afternoon. Will be Dr. Kimberly Wieser and she will be presenting on continuing Comanche culture as making craft as shared story. And this project documents the artistic creations by citizens of the Comanche Nation of Oklahoma, the Namana people, with a broad focus on art, from men's ties, I forgot mine, to ledger art to beadwork. The team of Comanche and allied academics conduct interviews with participants to provide deeper context about the cultural context of art and its meaning to the artists themselves. Dr. Wieser is an undergraduate director and associate professor of English, as well as an affiliated faculty member with Native American Studies and Environmental Studies at the University of Oklahoma, and directs the activities of the Native Writers Circle of the Americas at OU. She serves on the board of the University of Oklahoma Arts and Humanities Forum and is one of the co-chairs for the NCTE CCCC American Indian Caucus. And so I present to you Dr. Kimberly Wieser.
I'm going to try to stay in my limits here. I've got notes I'll be doing. I'm going to start by saying Madoe, that's hello in Comanche. I am not Comanche, I'm a Comanche captive. I have Native ancestry, I'm not enrolled, so I want to make that clear. But in Comanche, Madoe, when we greet each other, it means report. We want to know what you've done, so you give us a report. I want to start by thanking people, as others have done. I want to thank the LOC staff here for their generous grant in support of our project, and thank specifically Guha, who has the patience of Job, definitely, as well as Jason, John, Michelle, and Meg, because they all helped with various aspects of things over the course of time. I also want to thank my husband's niece, Amanda Wilson, because she owns Tie Company. And a men's tie of my husband's, you'll see as we begin this, was the sort of impetus for the project. And she indeed custom made me this nice tie today to match my skirt to go with this here. And I also want to thank the ancestors, not just my own and the ancestors of this place, but also your ancestors, because they quite literally made it possible through their sacrifices, their prayers, their tears and their joys for all of us to be here in this room today. So I want to start that way. Sorry, I'm a little nervous here, trying to get things to, I'm not used to a left click being there, so trying to make sure I'm clicking there, and that's just my title slide, but I'll tell you more about my people that worked with me on this project as we get further into it. So just an overview, I'm going to go over our project plan, our investigators, and then most of the presentations over our craftspeople/artists. And those will be Amanda Wilson, Martin Flores, Mary Wade, Edmund Nevakoya, Allison Steinmeier, and Rance Waryakwe. And then we'll look at the results really quickly of our study. I'll point out quickly that of these people, 4 of the 6 are related. My husband is Rance. Last name means the motion a man's body makes while riding a horse. That didn't translate well into English, so we were glad that we were able to keep that. Edmund is, in mainstream ways of counting kin, his second cousin. In their ways of counting kin, his brother. Martin is his brother/first cousin in mainstream ways of counting kin, and Amanda is his niece, second cousin in their ways of counting kin. So our project plan. This is the origin story of our project. My colleague Bill Andres, who studies digital humanities at the University of Oklahoma and whose previous projects were in medieval studies, had long wanted to collaborate with me on a project grounded in the state of Oklahoma. My areas of study include both native literature and native rhetoric, and my work on native visual and material rhetoric seemed to be a really good fit for a digital project with Bill. I already had a native rhetoric video game in development, and I had a strong interest in technology since my Pong in the 1970s and my Commodore 64 in the 80s. Surely this could be a fruitful partnership, and it would be one that brought Bill at last into community with local people and their cultures. Sorry about that noise, y'all. But the years had passed, and we both had a lot of projects. We completed those, both books and digital humanities work, and we both moved up in ranks. I should say here, since my bio, I've become a full professor. I'm on, yay, thank you, academic book number 4, and I have given away all those responsibilities that were listed after my name to younger people. So I'm happy to be doing that. When Bill first approached me about writing an application for our Library of Congress American Folklife Collection grant, my first question was, to what community might we be of the most service? My second thought almost immediately was, this is our time at long last. As my spouse and our colleague grants were Yakwe and Bill's graduate student, on whose doctoral committee I sit, Allison Steinmeier, are both citizens of the Comanche Nation, it was clear that if we wanted to focus on indigenous culture in Oklahoma, we should ask the two of them to join us, and we should do something that gives back to Comanche Nation. Rance and Allison are not only part of the community, they are both traditional craftspeople who make both items whose design is inherited from the previous generations and items that use the same materials and aesthetics in new ways. They also know a lot of other Comanche craftspeople. Bill and I could bring knowledge of the grant writing process. Bill knew the technology and is the true digital humanities expert. Rance and Allison were both strong junior scholars in addition to other things mentioned above that they bring to this project. I was a strong writer and an established academic expert in our field of studies, native material rhetorics. We wanted to explore the question of how something is made correctly in Comanche culture. And there are definitely opinions about that in the community, and a person's thought on that subject are most likely greatly influenced by familiar practices and informed by their own experiences. I had learned about Hakani Yutuna Yuhani from a Comanche graduate student, Krista Hubbard, who has now finished her doctorate, and I became fascinated with this phrase, which translates into, how are you making right in Comanche? Because there is a correct way to do and make things in native cultures. That is how our project, Continuing Comanche Culture is Making Craft a Shared Story, was developed. But this project about crafts really begins with one object. Serendipitously, the previous year, I had won an award, and Bill had admired a tie of Rance's that you'll see there on the far right, that his niece Amanda had made, and he had gifted to him. Comanche crafts was the perfect subject, one in which we all had a strong interest. Sorry, I need to click back there. It was our intercultural meeting ground. We'd been blessed with what I considered to be a dream team with an ideal subject of study. Moreover, we were able to obtain the endorsement of both the Comanche Nation and of OU's Native Nations Center, whom I also want to thank right now for that kind of support. And we're going to hope to do exhibits there soon. We're trying to raise money to do a community launch. We're creating kiosks to give to them, and we have blankets still that we're going to be gifting to our contributors as we do that. So we set out to digitally curate artistic creations by the citizens of the Comanche Nation of Oklahoma, the Numina people. Numina became known as Lords of the Plains. Famed for their horsemanship and skilled as warriors, Comanches and their culture are frequently represented and misrepresented in television and film, which, by the way, there's 3 people in my household, including myself, who are SAG qualified from doing AMC's The Sun. So Comanches have been represented and misrepresented. And films from Old Yeller to The Searchers to The Lone Ranger and Tonto, Comanches have been depicted as savage and warlike, without humanity or culture. While Comanche culture certainly was militant in its defense of their tribally controlled area, Comanche culture and people were and are far more complex than outsider depictions. Comanche craftspeople, filmmakers, and other artists combat pervasive stereotypes by producing culturally accurate, appropriate, and respectful representations that are of and by Numina. Comanche visual artists and craftspeople working in a variety of media bring together and present historic and contemporary Comanche culture in their art. Comanche aesthetics and material culture have persisted in many ways through the creation of regalia for powwows or sacred items used in Native American church, or gifting of an elaborately beaded cradle board to welcome a new baby. Other items, beaded ties and earrings, ribbon skirts, beaded medallions, bridge cultures as Numina engage in their professions on and off the KCA, the Kiowa Comanche Apache Reservation. Proudly wearing examples of Comanche material culture to express identity and to say loudly and clearly, we are still here. Maintaining a broad focus while defining artistic creations from men's ties to ledger art to beadwork, our team of Comanche and allied experts plan to conduct interviews with 5 to 7 participants. We wanted to do dynamic imaging. We wanted to explore different aspects and materials of an artwork, celebrate it, transcend power dynamics. And we wanted to talk about the learning and application of craft and its transformative power in the hands of each participant. Oh, sorry, wrong click. So putting together our team was an act of bringing communities together itself. And as I tell my students, in Oklahoma, we've had communities that live next to each other for a long time, that overlap, in fact, but have not learned to live together. So we've got a unique history in Oklahoma among the states. The Caddo Nation and the Wichita affiliated tribes lived there since prior to contact. Comanche Nation has lived and utilized the resources of Oklahoma to support its people since the 1700s. Other migratory nations, notably the Kiowa, Apache, and Osage people, also hunted, traded, and placed their homes in what today is Oklahoma. In the 1830s, southeastern Indian nations were forcibly removed from their homes in places such as Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas, Alabama, and Mississippi. Other tribes from the diverse places around what is today the United States, such as the Peoria tribe, the Miami tribe, the Seneca Cayuga Nation, and the Modoc Nation, were later removed to Oklahoma from their traditional lands as well. Today, 39 sovereign nations recognized by the United States live and exist within the boundaries of this state. And that's Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, if anyone knows where that sovereignty resides. As principal investigator, I oversaw and researched managed the administrative aspects. Rance led the team as tribal liaison, conducting artistic interviews and directing filming. Bill captured the dynamic materiality of the artifacts produced by the Comanche artisans and oversaw the storage of data and did that metadata stuff for us. I know nothing about it, happily. And he had assistance from Rance and Allison Steinmeier, who helped to incorporate Comanche language into the project. And you'll see here, Bill, as associate professor, Allison studies the language Namatequap in her digital humanities work. Rance had experience from the First Americans Museum in Oklahoma. He was one of the curators there. He did the warriors, the sports, the video games, the trade routes, did a lot of those exhibits, and I was a Native Studies specialist. So I'm going to start with Amanda. So Amanda Wilson is right here. She's our niece. You can see she's got some of her men's ties there. She also does ladies' ties, which has been something she's been doing lately. Amanda is a mother of 4, a wife and a mother of 4. She has become an important source of income for her family. Her next to her youngest child, she has Mylan, Kylan, Rylan, and Bliss. Bliss is the little girl, right? Rylan has cancer. He is 8 years old. He was diagnosed shortly after this filming, so she spends a lot of her time at St. Jude's, but she carries that little Singer sewing machine with her, and she is continuing to bring in money while they're doing that. So I wanted to say that. That's the tie in question that started this whole thing. We had to add that, and there's her little Singer where she produces her works. So Amanda is a former fancy shawl dancer on the powwow circuit who danced at the same time as now well-known Erikara Hadatsa, Blackfeet and Plains Cree fashion designer, who collaborated with Louis Vuitton in 2024, Lauren Goodday. Amanda's grandmother had been making all of her dance outfits, but when her grandmother fell ill and could not continue, Amanda began at that age, around 14, to, with guidance from her family, sew and design her own outfits. Fancy shawls are heavily decorated with applique. Beadwork is also an important component about powwow regalia. Amanda's paternal grandfather, the late Martin Wariakwe Jr., was an extremely famous beadworker who made ornate western belts. You can see echoes of his design work in her ties, as well as she uses a mirroring technique quite often It's more obvious in the tie that I'm wearing, which I'll just step out here for a minute because I'm so short. I'm amazed you can see me at all. There's a teepee here, and then the other teepee mirrors it. And since he did belts, that was an important thing he was doing in his design. So she carries that through in her work. Let's see. She had sons, and they're involved in gourd dancing with their grandfather, Mickey Wieser, and in Native American church, and so they needed to be sharply dressed in Comanche attire to best represent their family. So applique transferred well to ties. Now she also has a little girl to sew for, Bliss, so she's making ribbon skirts for herself and Bliss and her mother, and she's crafted an outfit or two in whole on her way to designing Native women's clothing. You can see she also makes bow ties with the fabric that she designs and has a local company produce. And she also makes otter caps, which we're going to learn more about later on from another artist that I'm going to show you. But they're used in gourd dance, and they're for people who are socially respected traditionally, both male and female alike. So I'm going to show you a little bit more of her work here. If I can get the clicking to work. Okay, and then I'm going to move to our next artist. Martin Flores, who is Amanda's uncle, Comanche way, and who was named after his grandfather and her great-grandfather, works for Comanche Nation Prevention and Recovery, which focuses on utilizing crafts and other traditional activities to help tribal members with prevention and recovery from drug and alcohol addictions. Martin, who did not have any relatives who were fan makers, wanted to learn this craft in order to make fans for himself and loved ones. The fan maker he did know, who was a non-relative, consented to teaching him how to make one feather on a visit, and Martin taught himself the rest from there on from trial and error. The day of our interview, he agreed to share with us his work on traditional feather fans. You can see here that he's attached these black and whites, which are a certain kind of eagle feather used for particular ceremonial purposes, to thin dowel rods, one of the first steps after trimming and shaping the feathers. On the table, you'll see red-tailed hawk feathers as well. Trying to find my spot here. All of these feathers that you're seeing here are protected by the U.S. government, and only Native people with the proper paperwork who follow the appropriate legal processes are allowed to possess them. Martin studies his feathers and decides on the best arrangement of them. You can see that contemporary tools like rulers, cutting mats, and even spray adhesives have become part of this process. I will tell you that my own grandfather used super glue when he made medicine bags, which freaked my uncles out completely, but he did. And they also use colorfully dyed feathers from domestic birds that are sold at craft stores. So you can see some finished fans of his here, 2 different finished fans that he's made. He also does the beadworks. He also makes those twisted fringes on there, which is another skill. And there's thread work. The color that you see you see the pink and the green feathers there, and below there, close to the leather-covered dowel rods, that's thread. So it's just wrapped thread, but it has to be done correctly or it doesn't look right at all. But I want you to know a little bit more about Martin, and not just this. He's also a grandfather. He is a traditional dancer, so you can see he uses craft work in his regalia. And that's some teepee poles if you look up, because I didn't want to show the inside of a ceremony. He's also a Native American church roadman. And our crafts end up in our teepees in ceremony, both in objects we use and in objects we give away. Our next interviewee, if it'll click, there we go. Oh, I went a little bit too far when I clicked, is Mary Wade. Mary is a respected Comanche elder who met with us to discuss her otter hats and princess crowns. As stated before, otter hats are traditional attire for Comanches of higher social ranking. Princess crowns are beaded and often adorned with a white eagle plume. Most tribes have princesses and a junior princess, but here we mean princess, like mainstream people mean homecoming queen or Miss District of Columbia. Powwow princesses are chosen in a contest similar to these, but Native. For instance, Miss Navajo Nation must be able to both speak Navajo and catch, kill, and butcher a sheep to qualify. This is not your average pageant. Mary Ward makes the crowns for Comanche Nation princesses. I have a Mac, y'all, at home, so I'm sorry. I'm just not used to this left click. You can see the plume on that. She makes the crowns for Comanche Nation princesses, and she makes the otter hats. And just like you can see that the feather that was attached to the crown is also attached to this otter hat here. Otter hats have tails that drape down the back of the wearer. Those for men have longer tails than those for women, and that's what Mary's demonstrating by stretching this tail out here for you. In this image, you can see how intricate and detailed, if I can click correctly, how intricate and detailed the beadwork is on the crowns. And you can see additional beaded regalia that goes along with the crowns and the whole outfit in the background. Many matching beaded objects are often part of a dancer's regalia. Let's see. We have more detail here along with detail at the bottom of an otter hat. And you can also see in this that Mary's playful with her linings. I don't know if you noticed that polka dot there, but there's a little bit more fun. And here are several of her crowns. And some more powwow regalia. Here, usually what you'll see on a women's belt, sometimes 4 things. You'll have a strikes-alike pouch, which was usually used for making fire. You have something that's called a purse or a pocket, which is exactly that for storing things. Often you'll have an awl case and then also a knife case as well. Native women carried knives as tools, but also as weapons, right? You're out by yourself, you're gathering stuff, you need to be able to defend yourself at any time. And you can also see that there's a concho belt in the background there that it's attached to, and that's handmade. She's assertive about sharing her knowledge, but she's also playful, right? And she's kept that spirit, and it's important for future generations to be able to learn, because oftentimes young people are intimidated by elders. And then in this last image, you see her there in her own traditional Comanche red and blue dress and in her otter hat. And her dress is decorated with silver dimes, the really, really old school way. And it was to show the wealth of the family, right? Show it off on the oldest daughter. Yeah. My next interviewee that we're going to talk about here is Edmund Nevakoya. And if I can find my thing on Ed, which I just lost. Okay, Edmund Nevakoya is well known throughout Indian country for several reasons. He's a visual artist, a flute maker and player, a dancer, a powwow MC, and a singer. As one of the musicians for the drum group MGM, he was one of the first Indians to win a Grammy for the Gathering of Nations powwow CD. His paintings, as you see here, are usually of the flat style. The plain style of American Indian painting that originated at Macomb College, a Baptist Indian school in Muskogee, Oklahoma in the 1930s, but was popularized by the Kiowa Six, who were 5 male and 1 female artists who attended the University of Oklahoma under the instruction of Dr. Oscar Jacobson and lived with him and his wife at their house, which is now a Native Art Center. And you can learn out more about the Kiowa Six from the Jacobson House website if you want to check that out. This two-style dimension of art has similarities to Plains ledger drawings in both the subject matter and the style. And the latter evolved from the Plains practice of warriors drawing in the dirt with a stick as they were telling their war stories, which was called tying the story to the stake of truth. It was thought to, you're being honest, you're telling me the story in 2 different ways. So we often see this in Ed's art, and you usually see warriors on horseback, which is common to ledger drawing, and even the layout. Winners in ledger drawings are coming from the right usually, so Ed faces his warriors the same way. You'll see in this next slide that there's a lot of detail here, so let me click on in here. He includes a lot of detail. We see the same kind of layering of handcrafted items on this that we see in Ed's actual attire, right? So he's got machine embroidery on the shirt, some applique and embroidery on the vest, and he's got a horsehair tie that he's wearing there, shell and bead on that necklace. Ed's also a flute player, so we see some of the flutes he's got in process there. There's Rance interviewing him, and we see several of his flutes there. There's a lot of variety in the flutes that he makes. We see him laying out this flute on a handmade Sioux star quilt. There's a lot of mutual gifting in Indian country, particularly in the powwow world, which is part of relationality, a native world ordered by relationships, renewed by coming together again, and periodically by gifting. Here he's speaking not with just an interviewer, but a Comanche relative, his Tommy. Ed would be Rance's Pabi, his older brother. And as his Pabi, he utilizes this space of this interview to pass on knowledge familially, just as he learned it himself. Ed's story of the origin of the flute from a Comanche perspective, in order to share this knowledge of Rance, he tells him, just like he learned it from his dad, and this is in our Library of Congress project. You see Ed reflecting and smiling in these pictures from that memory, right? There is a story of the flute about turning mourning into sweetness, right? That grief into sweetness. A sweetness of sound brought about by a sweetness of spirit. And Ed makes a variety of flutes to sell and play. It's gonna come up. Just a couple more. Okay. His father was the famed visual artist and flute maker, Dot Teknevakoya, who was one of two Comanches, along with Wuji Wachitaker, to perform for Queen Elizabeth II in London and be knighted by her. So Ed grew up in a household where performing and speaking with outsiders, even the Queen of England, was a normal thing for Comanche men to do. Moreover, he learned much of what he does as a Comanche man from his father, who taught him that origin story, who taught him how to play flutes, who taught him how to perform, how to paint, how to engage with both the Comanche world and the larger one, of which it is part as a nation among nations. Consequently, the majority of Doc's children, Ed's brother and one sister, are well-known artists, and all of the male children are flute makers and players as well. That picture, the first picture of Doc, was on the cover of a book by Paula Conlon, a retired OU professor. And then this is Doc making flutes and playing flutes. And this is Ed at an international event. I will tell you that's his ex-wife on the far left, but I still wear the earrings she makes, Monica Raphael. She's quite a good earring maker. But Ed is well known, and he gets out there in the powwow world. And this is Ed with his late brother Sonny, winning a Grammy at the Native American Music Awards. I'm gonna go really quickly, y'all, because I'm running out of time. So hopefully this is gonna click. Allison Steinmeier shared a lot of things with us, and I'm gonna click so fast. Allison's a mom who also learned to sew because she has kids, and she taught her daughter to sew, and her daughter was a powwow princess and junior Miss Indian Oklahoma, and so Allison had to sew a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. Let me see if I can just keep clicking. Click. Come on. Click. Yeah. So Allison, during the pandemic, made aprons. She made masks. She just made and made and made and made and made. I'm going to keep clicking. And the last person that I'm going to show you is my husband, Rance, who is a drum maker and also an artist, if I can get all the way through here. Yeah, that's her daughter. That's the first skirt the girl sewed, which is rather amazing of Angelina to do that. I don't know if my clicking will catch up, but if so, you might. It's not responding. Come on now. Okay, the program stopped responding, so I'm going to just talk to you and end. So what we would have shared with you, which is in the Library of Congress, is drum making. Rance does workshops for youth, and he was also the cover artist for my first book of poetry. So, oh yeah, there we go. Thank you, Guha. And just see if I can click it all and show you those, and we'll end. No, it's not going to click anymore. Okay, I'm going to conclude. Thank you so much for your time. Uda. Udako.
That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that presentation. Very beautiful outfits and some great artistic work, and not at all warlike. So we'll go a little bit north to Kansas now, and I'm proud to introduce a presentation on Latinx celebrations in Western Kansas by Dr. Rocío Del Águila Carreño. The project documents Hispanic cultural heritage of Western Kansas, focusing on the large yet under-recognized Latino communities in Dodge City, Liberal, and Garden City, which are predominantly Mexican-American, hailing from the northern mountain states of Mexico. A team led by faculty from the university's Spanish History and Anthropology departments, as well as a local photojournalist, documented social and familial events such as quinceañeras, as well as foodways and religious celebrations such as La Fiesta de la Candelaria, and the project seeks to honor the struggle of Hispanic immigrants in western Kansas. Dr. Del Águila Carino is an associate professor of Spanish with interest in Hispanic literature and food studies. Wow, that's great. It's good that you can combine food with literature. And so I'm proud to present Dr. Rocío.
Hello, thank you for being here today. I would like to start by giving a big thank you to everyone from the Library of Congress and the American Folklife Center who was involved in this project. So Nancy Gross, wherever you are, thank you so much. Also thank you Jason, Michelle, Charles, Sabine, that I don't know, and Meg. Working with you was a breeze, and I'm very grateful for your guidance. I also want to thank my team at Wichita State University, Dr. Enrique Navarro, who is on the back, Dr. Jay Price, and the Office of Research, and my team outside of the university, Dr. Hugo Perez Trejo and Travis McCarty, my videographer. So, let's see if this works. Yes. Oh, this is the name of the project, Fiestas. So, Kansas, and this sounds like a class, I'm sorry. Kansas is here. So it's in the middle of the country, and I'm not saying it. This is a Kansas historical marker. We're the heart of the country. I live in Wichita, that is to the southeast of the state. If you go north, I-35, 2 hours, you go to Topeka, the capital of the state. If you go northeast, you'll find Kansas City. Kansas City is in Missouri, but we go for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, we do. Our largest metropolitan area, there's in the heart, that's where I live, Wichita, Kansas. Now, if you drive to this side, to the west for 3 hours, you find Dodge City. If Dodge sounds familiar, it's because it's well known for Old West, a rich history about the travelers of the Santa Fe Trail, the presence of Native American tribes, the cattle trail of the 19th century, lots of narratives and popular media involving gunfights and violence, longhorns, and cowboys, of course. If you travel one more straight to the west, you'll see it here, like going to Colorado, you get to Garden City. And a little to the south, and almost in the border of Oklahoma, you will get to Liberal. These three are 1 hour away from each other. Now, Western Kansas has a lot to do with Latinos, so check this map. This area was considered a part of Mexico. You see the little corner of Kansas, that's where these cities are. The Santa Fe was originally a commerce route, later became, during the Mexican-American, it became a military route. And finally, at the end of the century, you have it here, the rails of the Santa Fe Trail were laid over this road. Fort Dodge, that was the name, and Topeka were amongst the main cities of the route. If they were building a train, there was, of course, a crew of Mexican workers. That is why all the Latino neighborhoods in this country are close to the railroads in the cities. This also meant good commerce. And history shows us that there were Latinos there, and we can probably find traces of their culture, languages, and more. But how about now? I work with an organization of Latino students. I have so many Latinas that are from Western Kansas. So let's see some demographics here. The areas in the map are the ones with high number of Hispanic population. Sedgwick County is high, but not in proportion for its population. I live in Wichita, where there is around 6%, so very low, of Hispanic population. But you know how high is Western Kansas? Dodge City has 66% of Hispanic population. Liberal is 69% of Hispanic population, and Garden 52%. But there's a lot of quiet Hispanics, because Hispanics come in all colors of the rainbow. And some have been in those areas for a long, long time. I know that our census confuses race and ethnicity sometimes, but at this rate, at this number, these numbers are saying something else. the number of Hispanic population in Kansas is growing. Also, the number of foreign-born population, that it's people that it's not born in the US, is about 30%, super high in the case of Liberal, just to give you an example. But there's a mix of Latinos of several generations, go by 10, 15 generations, and some that are newcomers. By then, the question is, why go to Western Kansas? Every night, I can see several ads on local TV on Univision in Spanish. Ads about high salaries per hour, no need for additional education, free health insurance, benefits, transportation, flexible schedule, all amazing. And for what I know, it's all real. And this is not an ad of Univision. Oh, no, it's not. This is a historical picture of Wichita, cattle in Wichita, Kansas. And this one is from the Cudahy Packing Company in Wichita that hired Mexican laborers. This one closed in the 80s. The meat factories then moved back to rural areas. The meat factories that we have in Kansas, Tyson, Cargill, National Beef, 3 out of the 4 major ones in the country, plus several small ones. I don't know how many cows are killed in a day, but between Dodge, Liberal, and Garden, the golden triangle of meat packing, and that is Wikipedia, not me, they are producing a lot of meat that we can eat. I believe that the plant capacity just of National Beef is around 5,000 heads of cattle per day. So this company is 5,000 cows per day. That means cows that need grazing, poops that needs to be scooped, blood that needs to be cleaned, and all cow parts that need to go somewhere, and hopefully parts that will go to a market near you. That means that factories never sleep. I've been through an area at 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, and the lights were always on. When COVID hit, these factories created the perfect environment for the virus to spread, but people kept working, not for them, but for all of us. They had a sense of duty, and they kept seeing cows, blood, offal again and again. It is a very tough job, hard physical labor that pays very well, and these workers do their job until they can afford for their daughters, my students, to go to a college. And isn't that the American dream? I heard once in a panel about Kansas economy that you can feel the cow smell. It is true that you can smell this strong manure-based odor in some of these cities, but as one of the panelists mentioned, it is not the smell of cows, it is the smell of money. The economic and social impacts are real. Rural economies with high Latino populations tend to have good employment rates and good average income. These communities thrive. And now, thanks to projects like this one, I can teach my students about their family's contribution to their economy and to their culture. And let's see if this goes, or maybe not. There we go. Lots of cows, lots of land, lad. But my project was not about geopolitics, was about people and their fiestas. About the parents that work hard to pay for their children's education, but also for their quinceañeras. This is the starting point of the project. I was going to record a couple of quinceañeras, and that was it. But once of the chisme, the gossip got out, everyone wanted to be in the project. So I expanded the geographical scope of our project. I also realized that there was sort of a mobility in Kansas, and that some families, even living now in the cities, would go back to these places to celebrate because this is what they consider their hometowns. And I wanted to talk about these folks that were celebrating their lives, their roots, their families, their children, their cultural descent, their Latinidad. And celebrations were done in different ways. So we had intimate gatherings and city celebrations in the park as well. So oh my God. Let's try to get out of this one somehow. There you go. Okay, so let me show you some of the celebrations we have. For example, this is the Virgen of Guadalupe in Wichita. This one includes matachines. So many different crews of matachines that come all over Kansas just to be in this parade. And it's close to the Virgen of the Guadalupe area. And there is a big church in that area. And there's, of course, school bands. And as you see, this is not only for kids, but it's also for families. So we have, of course, the clothing from far and from close and different kinds of takes. There's another one, the Cinco de Mayo in Garden. Yes, they celebrate Cinco de Mayo in Garden City. And it was huge. It was an entire day. They had a morning run, a parade, food stands, Salvadorian pupusas, trompo for Mexican al pastor, Puerto Rican pastries, folklorico dancer, a dog contest, a Selena singing impressionist, Latina misses, singing country. Oh my God, there was so much on a day. And then there was a cleaning crew at 7 p.m. So this is a celebration, but not for Latinos. This was for all Garden City. It was such a big fiesta. And here are the misses, and this was part of the parade. The guy in that, you see all the decorations over there. And then Miss Teen Garden, Miss Garden, Teen Miss Garden, I would say children in the picture. Then we have Wichita Latin Fest, and in that one you can see, let me go. We had a Rueda de Casino, a Cuban salsa style synchronized dancing, a book presentation, that's the ones that you're seeing there. Anita Mendoza, she's a 5th generation Latina in Wichita and presented a documentary about women in this neighborhood, that it's called Las Nuevas Adelitas. Then we also had, that's the view from the top. We got to a building to take that one. Then we also had the Chapinas, these ladies that cook from Guatemalan food. And the other person is Representative Angela Martinez, who is also the organizer of this event. Her family has been in Wichita forever. And so both, for example, Anita and Angela, they don't speak any Spanish, right? So, but they are very, very important in that community. We were also able to get into a naturalization ceremony, and we filmed the whole thing. But I believe that we were not able to use all this information. Still, as you see, Dutch keeps their traditions alive. And yes, and they took so many pictures. They sang during the ceremony. It was very, very nice. We covered as much as we could, but still, some of these pictures we used. The video, I will use it later. We also had the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Wichita, and we paid a lot of attention. For example, that day they were having pambazos, so we paid attention to the food and aguas frescas. We had a very important people. Some were from Western Kansas, so they were talking about their immigration journey in there. We had another community event, Crossroad Kitchens in Dodge. So the Dodge city government did a multicultural event that highlighted foods of several countries as a way to show the contribution of immigrants into the city. And it was a sponsored event, so everyone could try food from different countries, the Latino countries like Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras, Mexico, of course, but also Middle Eastern, European, African countries. And they had commemorative plastic cups and that little passport where you could just get a stamp from each of the places where you had eaten something. What I love about this festival is that there was a lot of material culture, so we took pictures of all these things. Then they also had tlacoleros. This is a traditional dance. They also had a folkloric and everything, but I wanted to show you today the tlacoleros, which is a very specific dance, and they brought these tlacoleros from a different part of Kansas. These are some Mexican traditional dancing, and it ended up, the night ended up with a gunfight, of course. This is Dodge City. So yeah, so we had a gunfight in the street. If you want to see a gunfight, they have it twice a day in the Boot Hill Museum in Dodge City. We also had a Los Reyes Magos that was in Wichita. The organizer is a Puerto Rican woman, and she has an amazing group of grassroots Puerto Rican organization. So you have the 3 Reyes Magos, the wise men, and they had other things, of course, a nativity. But the music of this day was fantastic. They would go around with the 3 wise men like a parade singing. And this was a completely different kind of music, but still something for the Latino community that you have in there. We had a Catholic church event in Liberal. You see a family of Mayan descent from Guatemala in the picture. And the most beautiful part of this is the lady calling for people, come and buy, with a beautiful voice. And that is in one of the videos that we have. This is the Aguas Frescas, but what I like you to see is that is a semi-truck. And you see there's another one. And there's another one in the back because, a family with a semi-truck can be in the business. So this is like $100, $2,100. It's the price of the house, but this is the business. So if they have one of these, they can do a lot of work with the industries over there. This is the CALAC, Kansas Hispanic Latin American, I have to remember this, a first commission of the governor's office. They do a summit every year, and that rotates. So sometimes Western Kansas, sometimes Topeka. And in this case, I wanted to highlight, because sometimes we have, Berta Garcia, she's a nurse, Jimena Garcia, the COVID-19 health advisor, but we will forget, because in 10 years, we will forget that there were these people in those positions. So I wanted to take pictures, as many as I could, of all these people. The person that is sitting over there is our representative, Susan Reese, and she covers the area in the north where there's also a lot of Latinos as well. These other people has more women, and it has a group of promotoras de salud. I thought that was very important because the promotoras are the community health workers. We didn't go to a doctor. We go to a promotora, someone who is like family that tells you this is what you need to do, and then you go to the doctor. And so these people are the ones that take care of all Latinos, because if not, we would not go to the doctor and address our needs. So I thought it was very, very important to address that as well. And then we start with the quinceañeras. So for the quinceañeras, we were first all these big gatherings, but then we wanted the small events, and we had the quinceañeras. And it's very important for them. This is a gathering. They told me, you can see family in a funeral or in a quinceañera. So it's better to be in the quinceañera, of course. But there were so many traditions. There were the godparents, in this case, of the crown. Things that I had no idea existed. There is the lady of the cake. She's a professional baker, and you see the cake has so many layers and flavors. We interview all of these people as well. Then we had, that is the last stuffed animal that the quinceañera is going to get, clothes with her high heels and a book, and everything has a godfather or godmother. And as you see, the name of the quinceañera in the front, behind you see a band of Latina singers that were doing some cumbia. Another one was this one. This one we recorded all the makeup process, how professional it is, and the quinceañera in the church. Well, all of them, to be honest. But this one, we had the good luck to see them the day before where they were cooking. You see the men are the ones that are cooking in these huge pots, and they killed the piglet before we got there. So there's not the information, but I thought it was very important. And the other picture, and lots of those, all the family was combined in the same color. So, and all the kids included. And I thought it was amazing because they were so late over there, and still that stereotype of all the Latino families being in the party so late, it was kind of true. We had another one of these quinceañera. They hired a band. The band came from Mexico. It was $10,000 or above, and it was in a I think basketball gymnasium or something like that. It was huge. And this was, of course, they had mariachis before, so it was, there were so many layers to this particular one. But this is very important, and we didn't understand it at the beginning, but now we know how important for a community of a migrant family to have this and to gather everyone in there. This is another one. You see there's a dance that you organize for months. You pay for an instructor to get all these friends of your daughter, in this case, together, and so they can dance together. And it's an organized dance that includes changing clothes and rhythms and everything. And now it seems that it's trendy in Texas that there's a robot in your party. So yeah, the robot came also with what was it? It was a, what's his name? Benito. What's the name of Benito? It's, I was going to say Daddy Yankee, but it's Bad Bunny. I'm sorry, Benito Bad Bunny. Thank you.
Like, I don't want to just Bad Bunny.
No, it's a right Benito. So Bad Bunny, and sometimes the robber comes with a Bad Bunny who is dancing around, and that's like the end of the celebration. We also had some other events, and the other events were smaller, like baby shower in Dodge. And when I say smaller, I'm talking about this. Okay, so yes, it was massive. We went and I thought, okay, should we get a gift? And we get to this place and we see all these Mexican guys, cowboys in the back drinking, and all this place absolutely full of people and decorations. I wanted to show you that one because that shows that we love Jell-O. And we love to do all these artsy things with Jell-O on top of cake and the other traditional things. They had a charcuterie board and all these things, but the Jell-O portion, I thought it was fantastic. Here's the family. There's a cake, as you see. Here's a family, very cowboy style. And that was a game for men. They had to just, the winner, they were dancing around this. And the winner had a tequila bottle. So this was an important thing to do. I thought it was amazing how men participated. That idea that men don't, well, it's not true. We also were invited to a rosario. It's a rosary. They were praying, and these people, these three ladies, are the godmothers of baby Jesus. So with this baby Jesus, every year they come around the same time, the beginning of the year, where they're going to put the baby away, and they bring something for them, like new clothes or a gift. But they also bring óbolos. Óbolos are gifts for everyone in that community. And the owner of the house brings food for everyone. So everyone can just go and request, hey, do you have food? I want to take some chile with pasta or something for later, and they do that as well. Of course, there was food, lots of it, and we recorded as much as we can. Those are ladies in their dresses. I'm sorry that the picture is not so great, but they were all in these dresses for the quinceañeras, and they were just peeling chiles with their hands. And I want to say something more here. I have 4 minutes. A Hispanic woman, a second-generation immigrant, was elected to the city commission in Liberal, and another Hispanic, also second-generation immigrant, ran for the city commission of Dodge. A Hispanic man born in Mexico and undocumented, although a DACA recipient, is the deputy city manager of Dodge City. This is Wikipedia, and I thought, okay, let's see if Wikipedia is Wikipedia. And here's the first one, and the other one is Ernesto. I was lucky to interview all of them. I asked them about their experience, how is that they got to this position, how is that their families celebrate. And I also have 3 other ladies that are from a different generation. Quinceañeras were not so common, bautizos were so common. So they told me about the differences. I interviewed someone who trains these ladies in the cities that work with health, and I also interview a community organizer. These people were not interviewed, we just had them. These are, donors of the university, but this is amazing because they're a very nice couple that owns like 30 Pizza Huts or something like that, a couple hotels. So they're fantastic, they're millionaires, and they talk about their example. Yes, but they are, the amazing thing is that he's from a small place, Salina, close to where we are, and he talks of his origins. She's from Texas. They talk about their origins as a simple family and how they got through all this process of getting where they are and still celebrating and still keeping their families as the most important thing. As we had so many Catholic experiences because the quinceañeros are very tied to the Catholic Church, we also had a pastor that gave us a different experience. He's from El Salvador, so this was a different information. And then we also had some families of the quinceañeras or families that spoke to us. Then we had welders that we were able to see. And you know, there's a lot of sub-businesses that are created because of the cow business and the meat factories. And so this is a constant business that they have. And I asked them, they're from different cities, countries, and I asked them, how do you celebrate life? And it was an amazing experience to talk to all of them. And almost there. Oh, this is my family. My family is sitting, by the way, over there. They're saying hi. My family, my husband is also my co-PI, he's also a professor. I was pregnant when I found out that we got the grant. And I was like, oh my God, this is the grant of a lifetime, but I'm pregnant. So my little ones came with me, or there was no project. It was tough, but we make it work. And instead of making it more difficult, the children opened doors for us. So we were not researchers. I was just a mother. There was so much generosity when the kids were around, and somehow we understood that even though we were researching, we are also immigrants, we have thick accents, we are Latinos, and we speak between English and Spanish all the time. And my Latino kids from Kansas were playing after long, long hours with the rest of kids. So we were just another guest, and at that moment we realized that we were documenting ourselves. It was such a beautiful round circle for us. So what is coming soon? You see that one? That one's in November. After this project in 2022, because we're from the first cohort, we've been invited, and we keep being invited to parties and quinceañeras. And now people is like, you want to talk about dresses? Sure. So we keep going and going to spaces and going to quinceañeras, and we drive for hours for these quinceañeras during the weekend. It's fantastic. We feel so welcome, and people are so generous. So we are creating a repository for some materials that would link to the Library of Congress, that the University Library, they're super interested in doing this. Then we have to do a documentary with the materials, but as you see, with so many materials, it's very difficult to cut and to edit. We'll do a photo presentation because all the libraries in Western Kansas are waiting for this. And it would be, I want them to be proud of who they are, and especially at this time. So I want to be sure that I bring that project back. And we are a month away from this party, and I promised my husband this is the last one. So hopefully that's the case. And I made it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very well done, just exactly on time. That was great, and also highly animated. And I keep wondering, there's think of all the Latinos who are working in the meat industry, and I also think of all the Marshallese that are working in the chicken industry. And so between those, we have to thank these communities for what we eat every day. Unless you're a vegetarian. All right. The last speaker, and I have to say that this is going to be very interesting, I think, for all of us, is Karen Abdul-Malik, better known as Queen Noor, is an award-winning international storyteller, independent folklorist, and teaching artist. For 29 years, she has enthralled thousands in over 36 states, West Africa, and Canada. Queen was the MC for the National Endowment for the Arts Heritage Fellowship Awards concert in 2019 and 2020. A Goucher Max, M-A-C-S. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds impressive.
Arts and Cultural Sustainability.
There you go. She curated a Foods Way. Hey, everything comes back to food, huh? Foods Way exhibition, Tastefully South Jersey, created a podcast series upon our authority, 100 years of women's empowerment in South Jersey through folklore and oral expression, and designed the HEAR, Here We Are project, consisting of oral histories and the development of listening platforms by a community-based collective. Queen has been part of the R&B line dance community since 2002. She began by taking line dance classes in Trenton, New Jersey with Kenny J. Her involvement continued by attending other classes, practicing the art form at regional line dancing and social events, traveling to conventions in other cities, documenting meetings, becoming a founding member and officer of I Am Kenny J Production Social Club, blending the art forms of soul line dancing with Black storytelling for celebratory events, participating in showcases, choreographing dances, and facilitating community outreach to social service agencies. Believe me, it's a bigger world than the electric slide. Here we go.
It's wonderful to be here. And what makes me joyful on this day is that I am here with culture keepers who love their tradition. They practice their tradition, and you're building community. I call my project team together. This is not where I wanted to start. Let's go back again. And so it's a pleasure to be among you. And I want to first, of course, like everyone else, you got to give thanks and gratitude to the American Folklife Center here at the Library of Congress. First, I got to give my thanks and heart to Michelle Stefano, Jason Smith, John Finn, Thea Austin, the Live at the Library staff, Douglas Peach, who I just met, Meg Nicholas, and those who I work with whose names I may have forgotten, and those that I don't know or didn't know until this weekend, like the archival staff and Miriam. I mean, y'all got to get them really, really big ups because our collection has 1,000 files. It has 436 releases. So it's a big file. But let me tell you this. Let me begin with this. And as you heard a little bit, and thank you, Dr. Underwood, for introducing me. I started line dancing in 2002. It was 2002. I was home. Yeah, I'm a mom, and I decided I wanted to go out and dance. And I said, well, I got to cross the bridge to go from Jersey to Philly to go dance. And I figured when I got there, there would be partner dancing, they'd be slow dancing. But then perhaps somebody's going to ask me when the fast songs come on to dance. And so it was true. There they were. They were slow dancing, but they were doing a different style that I had never seen before. And I learned that that was called Philly two-step. And then when the fast records came on, nobody asked me to dance. Nobody asked anybody to dance. They were line dancing. They were dancing in a line, and it was five gentlemen they called the Party Boys. They were dancing, and they were styling like I've never seen before. They were all doing the same steps, but their styles, they were sweet, they were funky, they were spicy, they were charged. And then there was one woman, she's about in her 50s, and her name was Sylvia, come to find out later. And Sylvia, she drew me in, and I said, I want to do that. And when I got home that evening, I started looking on the computer, and that's when I found I Am Kenny J's class in Trenton. But guess what? It wasn't just a class. It wasn't just a dance. It wasn't just parties. It was a whole subculture that was mostly unknown, but steeped in community. And so the first time I had a chance to document them was a year later when when the teachers came together in the Philadelphia, Delaware, and New Jersey area. And I took the minutes. And then in 2019, Gloria Kincaid had won a grant from the Leeway Foundation, and she had a panel, and she asked me to come to speak about soul line dancing from the folk art and folk life perspective. At the end of that meeting, it's recorded, it's documented. I said, you know what, everybody? We have to be in the Library of Congress. We have a story to tell. And then it came. 2002, it manifested, Widening the Path. I called my project team together right away. King, Aileen, and Gloria. And I couldn't have written the grant without them. So, Aileen, I'm amazed at this woman. I'm amazed at this woman.
She's saying that, excuse me, because every time someone got on the floor, I said, you see Lila over there in the gold sweater? She has an early onset. early onset dementia. So they're bringing her to these things to keep her brain from deteriorating more. I said, and this one over here had brain surgery. I said, this one over here just has knee replacement. And so looking at me like, wow. All this stuff. But it's to get to know us. What made you want that stirred the fire in you as part of your history or what you saw in the community before you ventured out to embrace it? And who do we need to talk to that helped you stroke that fire, that made you go, I gotta go to this event because so-and-so's gonna be there and they gonna do this.
And so that team, is this not working again? Okay, no, it went backwards. I call my okay. That team was the advisory team, right? So it was Kenny, Aileen, and Gloria. They were key in formulating the broader team, which I call the interpretive planning team. The key thing about this project is that it had to be a story that was owned by this community. And so they had to break down, they took 3 meetings to break down to lower the list. But the interpretive planning team played a crucial role in articulating the cultural significance of soul line dancing by working closely with practitioners, including community leaders, DJs, choreographers, dancers, and the cultural historians. The team ensured that the stories and traditions of the living tradition were preserved and celebrated. Advisors were key to the goal of communicating this and making sure that we had this, this team together. So you have Kenny J up here in the left corner. Kenny J is profoundly a producer, a choreographer, an instructor, and then we have Keisha. Keisha became assistant to the project director, and she's also an instructor. You have Bernadette Burnett, who who last month said that she has created 1,000 dances. You have Chris Blues, who is a DJ, a producer, instructor. Aileen Goodman, you've met. Tamika Shipman, they call her paparazzi. You have Gloria Kincaid, who is passionate about instructing. She is passionate about her seniors. You have Nichelle Underwood she was representing North Jersey, and she's a nurse. Doug Hawkins, they call him X-Man because of his styling, but he also helped to find a social group, and he's an instructor. You have Joyce Myers, who was Kenny J's first instructor, and then you have Vonda Pearson, who came from the Zoom world. The role of the DJs. DJs play a crucial role in setting the atmosphere for soul line dancing events. They curate playlists that resonate with the audience, ensuring that the music selection enhances the overall dance experience. Their ability to read the crowd and mix tracks accordingly contributes to the energy and enjoyment of the practitioners. Their creativity masters the vibe of getting it in, as Aileen Goodman would say. But it's not one, all, and the same. You see, there are some that beginners really like, and then there's some that the fierce advanced dancers, they're like, well, you know, I want to go to an event where they have that DJ. And a lot of people say, some people say, I can't go to that event. It's a little, those moves are too complex. Another one say, not that event. They just play the classics. But it seems to be like a conflict. Well, Kenny J turned that into an advantage and created the best of both worlds, where you would have 4 DJs. You have Butch Thomas, AJ Rivers, Chris Blues, and Walter White, all playing differently. And what happened with that? Everybody loved it, and the impact is they all came together for those kinds of parties. Choreographers like that Bernadette Burnett, they changed in our area from the beginning of line dancing, like heavily in the 2000s in the Philadelphia area. There was very few choreographers, but now there are hundreds, and there are thousands of dances. Alone, Bernadette Burnett has created 1,000. Instructors also are very important. They can be distinct in the way they teach. Students choose their teachers by location. They choose them by their teaching style or who is teaching a particular dance that week. Event producers facilitate one-night parties, weekend symposiums that include scholarships and awards, cruises, and Caribbeans, we dancing over there. Next we're going to go to talk about the essential narratives. Essential narratives, and the interpretive planning committee got together often when we met. They would think about the themes and what are the stories that we need to collect for our community in order for them to own the story. This is their story. So the avenues that we used was oral history, historical context, and community experiences. Oral histories. Personal stories of practitioners often reveal unique journeys. We all know that. Challenges and triumphs within the soul line dance community. These narratives emphasize the individuality of each practitioner and their emotional connection to the art of the community. Now, through those oral histories, we had 2-hour interviews. We had oral histories where we got some clips when we were at an event. But it was because of these oral histories and the point that our community owned the story that when I applied for the grant, it was called R&B. When I finished the grant, it's called Soul Line Dancing. Ray Boyd said in his interview, you calling it R&B? But soul carries everything, R&B, gospel, hip hop. And so the name actually changed and evolved because of the community. There was an instructor, her name was Sheila Holiday. And Sheila, her class is very tight-knit. And someone came in one day and said, Sheila, would you like to adopt the baby? And her class helped her, they supported her, they helped her raise money, and she adopted her daughter. Then you have stories like Devontae and his grandmother, Alberta Reams, 3 generations of line dancers. And his grandmother said that actually she asked Devontae to start line dancing and to become an instructor so that she could help him get out of the shyness of speaking and help him with his orality. In a couples interview, June and Audrey, Dee and Bud, and Aaron and Lance revealed that they had 2 couples had similar stories of the couples growing up with their parents being social line dancers, being artisans. At events, we caught stories of the passion for traveling, people traveling from all across the country to come to New Jersey, Philadelphia, Delaware to dance. And we had conversations on line dance attire and where were you going to store them. We also had a chance to catch one of the surviving party boys, Lenny Nutter, and had him interviewed as well. And then when we go to the oral histories, when we go to the historical context, we knew that this particular program said, don't go back and try to grab the old histories. That's not what it's about. We want to know, what is this art form doing in your community now? What is the impact now in your community? But we knew that the history would come out. And so understanding those historical changes and that framework, that song you just heard, The Wobble, Dave Bush. Dave Bush is known for creating that line dance. Dave Bush, they call him the godfather of line dancing in our region. And okay, let me just play this for you. So, and this is a little bit about Dave.
I moved here, and I stopped teaching. Running Man was the dance I used to do in my bed all the time, and I don't know it now.
But when we would see that, it's just like you learn from us and we learn from you, and see you having so much fun with Running Man. And did you perform it as a group on a cruise or something? When y'all went out together dressed alike?
Yes,
and they would and you would perform it on a cruise.
yes.
I was like, wow. That's what
I had a good class.
Yeah.
And I had to divide them, I had the people that could really do the dance come to my afternoon class. And then the others came to the morning classes. And they used to ask me, when am I going to the afternoon class? I said, when you have learned Running Man. I said, Running Man, when you learn that, you can go to the afternoon class. And every time they walk in the class, are we gonna learn Running Man today? I said, not today, but next week we'll start on it. And they loved Running Man too. And Dave used to come to my class, and he would just sit. Just sitting, and he was there every week. And I thought he would get up and dance. He said, no, I'm just watching. And when I was teaching those people, and they got to love Running Man too. And they were doing it, Dave told me, they're doing that dance. I said, yes, they are. And he said when he wrote that dance years ago, and he taught it, was trying to teach it to his group, and they couldn't get it, he said. And they said, no, we don't like that dance. And he stopped teaching it. And then when I saw him, I said, Dave, what about this Running Man that people talk about? He said, oh, you can't ask me about dances, because once I taught them and got rid of them, they left my head. I couldn't tell you anymore. But Dave Bush was a wonderful, wonderful person. And his people didn't learn the dance until my group started doing it. And then they come out on the floor, and they asked Dave, you taught her that? He said, no, I didn't. She looked at some of the dances I was doing, and she learned it from seeing him do it. I said, yes, and there's some wonderful dance. And what's his name? Ray Boyd. Yes, Ray Boyd said, oh, we didn't like that dance. I said, you didn't, but my group loved it. And we'd go out and we'd do it. And Ray and them would look, and then they learned it. And they said,
Ray will say now that you're not line dancing till you learn Running Man.
Yeah.
He embraces it now.
Oh, yeah. And Running Man was a great dance. I love it.
National anthem.
The national anthem of Philadelphia line dancing is Running Man.
I moved here, and I stopped.
Yeah, and so, and then we go to community experiences, for instance. But that Dave Bush, again, he's an ancestor now, and he has the national anthem in Philadelphia. His dance is named that. And so then when we go to community experiences, we have people like Just Class. Like, it was one of the interviews, I was interviewing 4 women from North Jersey, and they were talking about so there's apparel, there's T-shirts, and they say Just Class. And so people would say to them, oh, so this is going to be a social club? She said, no, it's Just Class. And she said, but then they would have another shirt, and then they would gather together, they all travel together. So this is going to be a social club, right? No, it's Just Class. And so you get to those kind of stories, and stories about competitions that Linda Bussey and Jeanette Edmonds shared about Kenny J. And then there's stories like the Kimmel Center. And you see this picture here. This is Chris Blues at the Kimmel Center. And at the Kimmel Center, at the Kimmel Center, it was the first time that line dancers were ever in the Kimmel Center. And that was making history on that day, too. And here's that. And that's Bob. People love Bob's class. Bob Teresa.
You already know. We at the table, y'all. He said, Chris, can you bring your friends? I said, can I bring my friends? He said, yeah, bring them down. They won't meet my friends, right? Meet the Kimmels. What?
Even the administrators at the Kimmels came out and danced as well.
Exactly.
All right. And then we have the cultural impact of line dancing. Just talking about that just a little bit. It strengthens community bonds. It's a medium for cultural expression, and it promotes inclusivity. And I'll just go through that. That's Gloria Kincaid, and that's Ray Boyd. All right. The health benefits of soul line dancing. I'm going to play this a little bit.
Yeah. In 2011, I was, laughing so hard to the point I got a headache. And at that time, the headache wouldn't go away. So after going to doctors and getting x-rays and MRIs, I learned that I had a brain tumor. A brain tumor on the left back of my head. When I learned of it, first person I called was Dawood. Dawood has just been my bestie throughout my line dance journey. So, after a lot of calming words and everything, he goes, just come to class. Come to class. I called him from a train stop, told him what happened, and he said, calm down, Breeze, just come to class. Went to line dance class, and we danced it out. At that time,
line dance instructor was Tamika's friend and line dance instructor, and he ended up coming there because when the medical assistant was having to try to walk again, she told her to do this step, and she started smiling, and she said, it's called the grapevine. I'm line dancing, and so a medical administrator said, I want you to create a dance, a line dance, and Daoud came and helped her to create that line dance. Yeah. And then we have project celebrations, and in those celebrations, we had a culminating event at Wilson's, and at Wilson's we had a panel discussion, we had the line dance, and we had a senior showcase, and then of course we had the Library of Congress. And it started off, as you heard earlier, with being on Good Morning America. And then when we arrived, we greeted the Library of Congress.
Come on, y'all.
Hey, how you doing?
How y'all doing out there?
Yeah. Okay. And what I wanted to share with you is that line dancers document. They document their own culture. And so this is a documentation, and I'm going to end with this, and you can see this, but it's history in the making, and it came from North Jersey. So we had 4 buses come down, And this is them getting ready to get on the bus to come down. And her name is Elizabeth Towles. She is the one that made this documentation. And it doesn't matter where we are, we're going to line dance. We're going to line dance, right? And so some of the outcomes, of course, from being on Good Morning America is like Kenny J. He just choreographed for a Grammy Award winner, Kim. We got other funding, like from the New Jersey Humanities Council. Let me give you a few more things as this is going on, some of the outcomes.
Just one look at you.
With Urban Line Dance History website with Lynn Gahardy, we're partnering to put up more information about line dancing. And this is the year of history, y'all, for line dancing. It's the year of history, and it started in February right here at the Library of Congress. We have now gone on a cruise, owning the boat. I mean, we were on the boat, 3,000 people on the boat. We're making history all year long. And of course, it's the Library of Congress. It's the archiving. It's the blogs. It's the podcast. And Thea, in the podcast, we asked one thing: can we do this again? Thank you. And we've been affected both locally and regionally. Like I just saw Curtis Good, who's actually from Detroit, who's in the video, and from UC Star Awards. I videotaped him. And he said he was showing somebody what he did. And they said, you ought to do something about that. And he said, I did. I'm in the Library of Congress. And then the last thing I want to tell you is I was at my mother's senior center. And when I went to the senior center, they were having a line dance event. I found out who the instructor was. I knew the instructor. And I said, oh, I'm going to go. And I took my mother. My mother is 93 years old. And I took my mother. And then they said, we want you to know the history. So it's not just about the dancing. We want you to know the history. And so we're going to play something for you. They played me telling the history from Good Morning America. So, thank you.
Okay, so this was a very spirited group of series of presentations. How about another round of applause for these?
Thank you.
And you know, there was a common thread to all of them beyond just the human experience, just beyond the idea of community and generating community. There was music, there's food, and there's always line dancing. And I always think, you know, the more I thought about this, is that there are senior citizen centers in Guam, and they do line dancing. And, you know, this is kind of like a international phenomena. They have prisoners in the Philippines doing highly choreographed line dancing as part of their rehabilitation. So this is something that's quite an interesting phenomena. Okay, the floor is open. Who's got questions? Come on, over there. Go ahead. Heather.
Hi, sorry, apologies I came in a little late, so my question may have been answered by your presentation, but for Karen, did you also have people demonstrating the dances or just sharing history?
Within my collection?
Yes.
Oh, yes. So within the collection, we took classes. So that's actually instructors teaching classes. We have showcases. We have the oral histories. We have events. So yes, the answer to that is yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Hi, thanks to everyone. This has been so fun. I have a question for the two university-based people. As a university-based person who has to work through the grants office and all of the apparatus that exist, I'm curious about the challenges of trying to do a really community-based project and how you dealt with some of those.
It was an issue, to say the least. I think the biggest issue is you would think that after existing for over 100 years in what was Indian Territory and then became Oklahoma, that the University of Oklahoma would understand how to work with Indians, and this is not the case at all. So our biggest difficulties were over compensating our participants, which we come from reciprocal cultures. And so to not compensate our participants would have been really, really difficult. The other thing we ran into is that the university's general counsel did not like the terms the Library of Congress had, and they wanted to settle things in our own state courts if there was an issue instead. And luckily for us, one of the investigators for our project was married to our department chair, and our department chair decided the Department of English would take financial responsibility for everything and created a document and signed it so that the University of Oklahoma would let us do the project. And then we had a very hard time getting research and development to process all the stuff on the grant, so we got a very late start on our actual work. We were held up for a very long time, even though the money had been awarded by the project. So it would be really, really nice if universities could figure out how to facilitate research better, particularly at R1 institutions where 1/3 of my job is my research. So, but thank you for asking that question, because that was probably the biggest difficulty we faced. The others were cultural in the other direction. We operate on Indian time. We realize that this is made up, this time thing, that we just move around the sun, all the time. Working with people and trying to get on this kind of time frame, particularly for today's generation, is a little harder. People that went through forced boarding schooling are on boarding school time. They're early for everything. So we had elders who were ahead and everybody else going, hey, what's this time thing? Why are we doing this? So we were fine with that, but working within a system, right, is difficult when you've got so many cultural differences. Thanks.
In my case, I think it was the same at the beginning. I cannot remember what General Counsel said. I think I ran away with the project. And it was difficult, for example, because when they give you a credit card, you have to put a social security number. And I was like, I'm not going to ask any of my people for that, period. It was a no-no. So they were like, what can you give us? I was a name. And that was it. And I was like, I need a quinceañera gift, because that's how are we going to do it. And they were like, no, you cannot do it. You need to do a credit card that is signed by the university. There are these little details, but in general, I think they would really try with me. And as it seems that my project, or me, I don't know, I'm not so common in the university, they were very helpful. I mean, they usually manage, aerospace engineering. So they were used to something different. So all my petitions were like, oh, how fun. And they would run with it. Yeah, so I was able to do as much as I could without a lot of problems, to be honest.
Yes, back there.
And research it. This question is for Dr. Kimberly. When you were talking about Mary Wade with the head dresses and all the elaborate work that she was doing, do you know how long it takes her to produce one of those, and how if there were any? I'm assuming she didn't use any kind of machinery. It was all hand.
Yeah, the beadwork's all hand. The stitches you see on those, people tend to call that applique stitch, and different people do it differently, depending on how you were taught. And different people work at different speeds. We didn't ask her how long it took, but at least in my own experience with beading, I mean, sometimes, you'd rather finish the beadwork than cook supper. It's a lot more fun. And it's kind of addictive, too. So how fast someone produces something depends on a number of factors, including when do you need it, right? I know a lot of stories of people bringing a child into the arena. When you begin powwow dancing, depending upon which particular group of people you come from, at least our practice in a lot of cultures is to do a big giveaway. And because you're wealthy if you can give stuff, right? Wealth is giving things, not getting things. So let's say your kid's entering the arena and you're trying to complete regalia for them and you're trying to make gifts, so you may not sleep a lot for a few days right before the event. So sometimes things that maybe should take longer don't take longer because we've got to get them done. So it will vary.
Sometimes maybe a month or something.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wonderful presentations. The common thread of joy and passion that ran through all three of those was really infectious. But for you, Ms. Malik, I have a question about the line dancing. I noticed that, and this has also been my experience, most line dancing seems to be an older crowd. Is it passing down to the next generation?
Yes, without a doubt. So when I mentioned to you the best of both worlds, one of those is because it's the intergenerationalness of it. So there are some dances that have really complex steps. They're fast, they're quick. And so I just came from Chris Blue's, he has an organization called We Dancing Over Here, or that's his theme, right? But then every other year he does We Dancing Over There. So I just came from Jamaica. And so that crowd, and what do you mean by seniors?
They seem to be
Like
about my
60,
age.
60,
How about
okay.
that?
60.
I'm older.
So there were people there in their 20s, 30s,
Yeah.
40s, 50s, 60s,
Okay, 20s is
70s. But
Yeah.
mostly that crowd is more of a younger crowd.
Right.
And they, like, again, their steps are complex. And then there's the classic crowd, the cha-cha.
Yeah.
Right, and cha-cha back, the little smooth and easier dances. And there are a lot of seniors. There are a lot of seniors that teach. And I think Kenny teaches seniors, Gloria teaches seniors, Vonda teaches seniors, Aileen teaches seniors. So there's a lot of seniors in the community as well.
Okay.
But it's mixed. It's mixed.
All right, thank you.
Nothing wrong with that. We're all getting older.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
I have two short questions for two different panelists. Queen Noor, are there any hotspots in Virginia for soul line dancing?
Oh my goodness, I can't believe you asked that question. So absolutely, you have to look up Carlos. Carlos is the one who ran that 3,000 cruise ship, on that cruise ship. Not only that, but he's also making history. He's opening up a line dance museum in Virginia.
Where?
Virginia, let's see. I think Richmond, Virginia. But Virginia has clubs. So if you go online and put soul line dancing Virginia, you'll find teachers. There's a major teacher, her name is Teresa, as well in Richmond. So, but there's clubs in Virginia. And he gives a beginners party, he gives a beginners event every year that sells out. As a matter of fact, just like the Library of Congress, there was no faster sellout, I believe, on the history of Thursdays, Thursdays live at the Library of Congress than this event. It sold out in less than 24 hours. The first round. Then she put more in. It sold out again and again and again and again. But that event sells out. So events sell out. So you just check it out. Definitely. Virginia's in the mix, girl. They're in the history.
And then for the powwow crowns, are they passed down? Or if you win it, do you get to keep it?
You get to keep it in some cases. The ones that are, there are some that different tribes or that different organizations, for instance, we have a Miss Indian OU, and so some crowns like that for bigger events are passed down, and they can be made of various materials. Not all of them are beaded. Some are actually now metal. So, a variety of things.
Very good.
Rocío, I have a question about all the festivals that are out in Kansas. And what is the sort of the mix of the different Latino communities in Wichita? I saw that you had Puerto Rican parrandas for Christmas and different things. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what the distribution is?
The distribution, we were very surprised to find absolutely everything that we were not expecting, because when you see for the numbers and for demographics, you would assume it's going to be all Mexican, right? And the second group is going to be Salvadorian, Central American. But then there's a small community, all community has been in some areas, in the case of Wichita, that is Puerto Rican. And they have a community gatherings. So that's the reason why you find them there. The salsa, for example, that's new. It's a new group of Puerto Rican people that came with a band, Tumbao, and now their son, who works in, he's a musician, they started doing salsa lessons. So that is something new, but that started 2 years ago. But I think that is the kind of initiative that changes what your usual panorama of dancing is in a city. So that has been the case over there. For example, Topeka, which is in the north, kept very much like the Latino Mexican, because their communities are older and they're staying there. And the western side of Kansas is different, because you have some old, let's say the older communities that have been there. They will keep Tejano music, things like that, cumbias, but the newcomers are still connected to their families. So and the majority of those people, they go there because they're from mountain regions. So they're for small towns. They don't come from Mexico City to this place. They're from Durango, Zacatecas, and all these areas. And in that area, what they dance is conjunto or something like that. So what they go is they find exactly the kind of band that they want, and they bring it here. And that's a reason why, instead of finding someone in Kansas or closer, Oklahoma, maybe Texas, they request that the band comes straight from Mexico. Something that I found that we had in every place, it's called tamborazo. So tamborazo, it's like 3 musicians with a big tambor, and they would just make any place a wonderful place. They could dance with that. You could have it as a background music or anything. So that was definitely in Kansas and moving around. So it depends I would say, of the time, and it will change and it will keep evolving. So hopefully we were able to capture 2-3 years of what is happening at the moment.
Anyone else? Now's your chance. All right.
Is that because I have the mic? It's going to be a comment that hopefully becomes a question. I was at the line dancing event, and the amount of people I heard who said, "We're taking over the library. We're here." They weren't speaking to me. I literally just heard hundreds of people say, "We're taking over the library." And they felt so connected to this place and their collections, and they were so excited to be represented. But I wanted to say that that's true for all the types of collections that we have at the AFC, especially these CCG opportunities. And so people make pilgrimages to this space, knowing that the materials are online. They still decide to bring their family. They spend, I don't know how much money to get multiple people and family members to fly to DC, to sit in our space, to see the materials that are online. And we have to say, are you sure? Do you want to invest? We want to make sure that you're making this informed decision. But people feel ownership. And so
exactly.
I wanted to see it, how I can connect it back to you three. Do you feel like there's a sense of ownership with your participants, and how did they feel about being at the library? Do you think that they're going to engage with us?
In my presentation at the very beginning, I wanted to say that it's all about ownership. That's how it was. Me and the advisors, we really wanted our community to own it. And I'm telling you, they owned it. They owned this space when they were here. We did it. We're in the Library of Congress, just like what Curtis just said. We're in the Library of Congress, and we hear over in the hugs and the tears. We were crying. We were crying and then hugging, and they felt. My community felt so validated. They felt so validated, and even giving up to, we making history, y'all. We making history. We are in the Library of Congress, and that is how it is. And that's the feeling, and it's that feeling to this day, and that's why they want to come back. because the feeling was so warm. The Thea and administration, that everybody was so warm, and they were dancing, and the administration was dancing on the line with us, and people coming in were dancing, and your daughter was dancing, and people, so people, and that you'll see people too dancing, because actually I had instructors on the floor for visitors to make sure that they can learn the steps and get the steps. And in that video, you'll see Earl Miller in the top. He was rocking the top row, up in the top tier, just teaching people. It was warm, it was loving, it was historic, and yes, we owned it. We called it that night our house. We said, this is our house. Yeah.
All right, very good. Yeah, so I just wanted to maybe ask a question that sort of like connects the three. So it would be great if we could do the mariachi music, do line dancing, and then we give winners powwow hats, So I'm trying to figure out, just based on what was transmitted today, what each one of you answer what did you learn from the other presenters today? What did you learn about communities from the other presenters, the other presentations?
I spent so much time texting during this because I was doing things like, my daughter lives in Emporia. She's in graduate school. I'm like, did you know that southwestern Kansas used to be Mexico too, right? And all the stuff that's going on. And I'm writing a novel right now that's set 40 years in the future, and one of my main characters is from Philly. Everything is Fletcher Street at that point, right? The whole city's become Fletcher Street. So now Philly line dancing is going into that novel. This is going to be why someone got kidnapped. This is what they were doing when they got kidnapped, dadgummit. And this girl's going to save her sister who was taken to the district, which is what you think it is, right? Yeah. So I learned a lot from all the presentations, and I'm looking forward to the rest of them. I mean, this has been really enriching.
I would say the same. I mean, it's not one. It's just that of each you learn something, and sometimes it's like, ooh, I should have done that, right? Or oh, how is that they kept their timeline, or oh, they were more patient, or oh, I did too. So I think that as a researcher, you learn something, but also the projects that we've seen, not today, but I mean, and hopefully also tomorrow, they're fantastic. You see the amount of things that. I think the effect that this project is going to have in their community, and its communities and cultures that we're going to impact with this, that's amazing. That's a gift, and that's a gift from the library. So thank you. Yes.
And for me, it was commonality of passion and celebration, and that's through the whole 3 days, right? And tomorrow too, I'm assuming too. But just the passion of and commitment of the researchers, and also I saw with you how important it is, the meaning to your communities, and that thing about ownership, right? And that and these two, that it's so important to make sure that even though we're doing the research, it belongs to the people. It's widening the path of the people. And that's the commonality that I saw. And then strength and resilience in our people. Strength and resilience through celebrations.
Very good. Well, this is an excellent set of presents. All of them are, but, in this instance, it's always, I think it's always important to reflect that this is not just about expressing the experiences of the folk. It's really about community health. These are vibrant stories about how communities remain healthy, not just a way of studying their experiences. These are how communities stay healthy. And I like the question about time and money, because that's what always comes up in universities. And so, they're always referencing time in a kind of a negative way. So I just want to tell you a little story about time. I grew up in Guam where everybody kept saying, you know, oh, he's late, it's Chamorro time. He's on Chamorro time this, or he's on Chamorro time that. And so the one piece of legislation that I was proud of is that officially I made Chamorro Standard Time on the federal government, and that's the only time zone under the U.S. that's named after a people. and not only that, federal agencies are required to use it. So all federal agencies, if you ever see a federal agency refer to anything going on in Guam, it has to say it's happening at 8 a.m. Chamorro Standard Time. So I wish that we could do that for all of these communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ora.
Thank you.